two things that I want to say just because these are like plant your flag moments for the niche cache. I am always of the belief that if you're going to say this is the greatest player, the greatest win, the greatest moment, you need to have every single one in contention throughout history for that to be, for me to take you seriously. So if you're like me, under the age of 50, and you're saying that this is the Blackcaps' greatest ever test win, you need to be able to rattle off the other great test wins for New Zealand. Like, I can't take you seriously if you don't have every single epic win. If you don't go through history and say, this player did this, this player did this, this player did this, and this player did this, I don't care what you're saying about the greatest. Now, when someone like Ian Smith is saying that this is a great Blackcaps test win, test series win, the greatest moment, I'm going to take him seriously because, all due respect to Ian Smith, he's a bit old, and he has a lot of experience tracking New Zealand cricket test victories. But there's like, it's something, all sports, like we would never say this is the greatest. And if you're going to say that, I'm going to ask you to list off all the other greatest moments. So you better be prepared. If you're coming at me in this niche cast conversation and you're saying it's the greatest, I expect you to list off whatever Bert Sutcliffe did back in the day. You need to be able to list off whatever Richard Hadley was doing. You need to tell me about the greatest test wins when the Blackcaps were going somewhere else in the world on a boat for 6 months. So if you're ever going to say that something is the greatest, you better know how it ranks in the full pantheon of great sporting moments. Because I can't take you seriously. If you're 25 years old saying that something is the greatest, you better be well tuned in with your history, because you've got no idea what was happening in 1940. The other thing, the Blackcaps win over India was a shock. That was truly shocking. I was shocked that the Blackcaps won 3-0. Tonga beating the Kiwis was not a shock. I don't even think it was an upset. So if we're going to say that something is shocking, you better be shocked. Now, this is all semantics. This is all me just observing how people discuss matters and planting my flag for the niche cache. Like the Blackcaps lost 2-0 in Sri Lanka. They'd been down in Test cricket for a couple of years after winning the World Test Championship in 2021. They'd had a disastrous T20 World Cup just recently. Then they beat India 3-0 in India. That is shocking. At the start of the Pacific Championship, everyone looked at the squads and was like, wow, there's so many players for New Zealand missing. Oh my gosh, like what's the halves combination being? Who's all these randoms who have been selected? What's going on? This is terrible for International Rugby League because there's so many players out missing. If we're saying that, and Tonga has a experienced International Rugby League team, 4 players who played at the 27 World Cup against New Zealand, Jason Taumalolo, Saliva Havili, Tuilola here, Daniel Tupou, they all played in 2017. There's a bunch of players who have played 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 tests, most notably Isaiah Katoa, who I believe has played, let me pull it up to make sure, I think he's played 9 tests for Tonga. 8 tests for Tonga. Isaiah Katoa
9 next week.
He played at the 22 World Cup. So 3 years, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever, he was playing for Tonga. He's not inexperienced. He's a young halfback, but he's not inexperienced because he's played twice as many tests as Leo Thompson. Isaiah Katoa has played 8 tests for Tonga. Griffin Neem and Matthew Tomoko have only played 5. Who else has played 5? Nathan Cleary has played 5 tests for Australia. Katoa is young, but he is not inexperienced. So you've got an experienced international team in Tonga coming up against an inexperienced New Zealand team that is basically made up of second-tier players, emerging international players. The most emerging player for Tonga isn't emerging because he's already played 8 tests. Not to mention that Isaiah Katoa is a better halfback right now than Sean Johnson. And somehow, not somehow, Isaiah Katoa and Lolohea is a better halves combination than Sean Johnson and Shans Nickel-Crockstar, because Shans Nickel-Crockstar didn't kick the ball in 2 tests. None of that makes New Zealand favourites. Tonga lost 5 tests in a row, and that was the only thing that was like dubious about what they were doing. But those 5 tests are part of like experience. That's a tour to England playing 3 tests together. That's a lot of adversity that the same group of players went through. Their combinations, they were battle hardened. They were experienced. And they were playing at Mount Smart in front of the Red Sea. Nothing about what Tonga did against New Zealand was shocking. It wasn't an upset. It was a really good Tongan team beating a less good New Zealand Kiwis team. We'll get deeper into that, but I just have, we've got to give some respect to what Tonga's doing. They are an experienced international rugby league team that was comfortable in that arena, and you would know Tonga playing at Mount Smart is different gravy. It's a different beast. Isaiah Katoa has already played 8 tests. Most of those Tongan players have played at least 5 tests. They are ready for what that environment at Mount Smart was. As good as the young Kiwis were and are, they were playing their first game in front of that type of crowd, in that type of arena. So I just had to put that out there. Got a bit worked up, and now I'll just bring it down a tier because the Blackcaps just swept India 3-0. And it was, I don't know if it's the greatest. I need Francis Payne on that. I need Ian Smith. I need Jeremy Coney. I need Brian Waddle to tell me if it was the greatest or not. All I can tell you is how I felt. And I had fun watching Tonga versus New Zealand. That was exceptional rugby league, and that's what I love about the Pacific Championships. And I had fun watching the Blackcaps destroy India. Highly pleasurable experience. Let's just zone in on some specifics for the Mumbai test. Because India, in their wisdom, they dished us up a seaming track in Bangalore. Not too hot, seaming conditions, we roll you for 46, we win the test. That's all good, we've talked about it. Then we go to Pune, and India's like, nah, we need more spin, and we need it to be hotter. It's like, okay, cool, fair play. That's what you should do. And we beat you. Talked about that before. Then we go to Mumbai, and it's even hotter, and it's even more spinny. We talked about this on Thursday or some in previous podcasts about comparing it to New Zealand and New Zealand conditions for touring teams, the Bangladesh series in recent years where they won in favourable conditions at Bay Oval. Then we took them to Hagley where it's seaming around. Status quo. The Blackcaps playing in Mumbai is the equivalent of Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka or Pakistan playing in Dunedin. where it might be 12 degrees and it's nipping around all over the show. Like, these are two extremes. Freezing cold in seam, stinking hot in spin. And guess what happened in Mumbai? The Blackcaps won. Will Young, 71 runs. Daryl Mitchell, 82 runs. With the ball, Ajaz Patel, 5 wickets. Second innings, Will Young, 51 runs. Couple of contributions that we'll get into in a bit. And then to wrap it all up, Ajaz Patel, 6 wickets. Glenn Phillips, 3 wickets. What caught your eye? What was some nitty gritty? That was a couple of D's in there. Nitty gritty. What was some of the nitty gritty from the third test in Mumbai before we go bigger picture?
Nitty gritty. Well, there was nothing but grittiness about the way the Blackcaps batted. Like, even when they were slogging, like even when Glenn Phillips was coming in and trying to smack some boundaries, that was gritty in its own way, because that wasn't Glenn Phillips trying to take the piss. That was Glenn Phillips being like, this wicket is a minefield and we need a certain amount of runs here. I'm going to go and try and score those runs and give this team a little bit of a boost. And Daryl Mitchell batted like that in both innings. And Will Young batted incredibly well in both innings. I mean, the way Daryl Mitchell went in the first innings was like, leading up to the tea break, he looked like he might just expire on the ground.
He was in pain. He was in pain.
He was almost in so much pain, it looked like he didn't feel anything anymore. Like, he was numb to the pain. He was just on the verge of, like, death. Like they were going to have to dig a hole for him in the outfield or something and bury him. He didn't look like he would survive it, let alone keep batting. I don't know what he did at the tea break, but he sharpened himself up.
Like, Will Young also, like, he was pale, and I remember,
and
like,
sweating buckets. Yeah. Like,
Daryl Mitchell, like, visibly looked like he was in pain. Like, all his muscles were tensing up. Like, he had like a grisly look. He was like gritting his teeth at the non-strikers end. I was like, bro, you're not, like, that's Mumbai. That's what India dished up so we wouldn't sweep them, and we did sweep them. But just before Will Young got out, I was like, bro, is he okay?
I thought that for several times about a few different batters. It was like, it was very much a do what you got to do kind of test match. It wasn't one where you're going to go out there and score a flashy 100 that's going to boost your average. It was just like, stay in, score some runs somehow, keep running those singles and those twos, even though it physically hurts to move. Like, that was the thing that was sticking the most about Daryl Mitchell. Is like, even when he's on the verge of faint, I'm like, well, he can probably still slug a 6, but how's he gonna, like? It was even running quick. Like, there were no quick singles. There wasn't really an option. But like, even just running a gentle single to a ball that's rolling out to the boundary looked like, is he gonna get run out? Like, is he gonna make it to the other side? It was like, this is incredible, incredible stuff. Let alone the fact that, like, my favorite image of the whole test match was the deck chairs and the umbrella drinks break. Like, the first drinks break on day one, I think they just brought out like ice packs or something. In the second drinks break, they bring out the ice packs, but they also have umbrellas. In the third drinks break, they got ice packs, umbrellas, and chairs, little white plastic chairs, like the old the party favorites. It was I mean, hey, like, credit for thinking on your feet and coming up with solutions in real time. That stuff is awesome. But I've never seen that before. Like, as far as, there's a lot of things about this series that we've never seen before, most of them to do with the results and New Zealand winning in India. Never seen umbrellas on a cricket field for drinks break before. On day one, and the Black Caps still won that test match.
That's Kiwi ingenuity. That's the small advantage.
Yes.
That was evident throughout the whole series, like the fitness, the tactics, the plans, and the ingenuity. Like Tom Latham kept saying, we got to adapt. We adapt to conditions, and they adapted to conditions by, okay, first drinks break, they only need this. Second drinks break, they need a bit more. Third drinks break, we got to go all in because these lads are buggered.
I mean, even India had they followed suit as well. I don't know whose idea it was. It was probably just the ground staff or something
No, it
like
was
that.
definitely
Here,
a
take these
Kiwi's idea.
umbrellas.
Definitely a Kiwi's idea.
Well, definitely a Kiwi's idea. Then we'll go with that. And in that case, India copied them. India brought out the umbrellas as well. They needed the umbrellas, so that paints a picture about what they were dealing with. However, India may have copied that, but they definitely didn't copy the grittiness. Like what was obvious in the way that they had batted, well, throughout the series. Their batting was piss poor, like frankly. They lacked the type of grit and fight that the Black Caps were able to produce, most notably in this third test, but in phases throughout the whole series. And there were only a few guys for India who felt like that was the case. And usually it wasn't because they were sitting in and grinding, it was because they were counterattacking. It was Jaiswal and Rishabh Pant and a little bit of Safraz and, well, a lot of Safraz, but in the first test, not so much afterwards. Like these were aggressive counterattacking measures. They never looked like they could grind out a session and just like get through without losing a couple extra wickets or just hang in there, hang tight, which is what they needed in the final innings there. Like you're chasing 150 odd. You need to be hitting boundaries because that's how you're going to get that scoreboard up. But you also don't need to you need to be selective about it. The way that Daryl Mitchell was throughout this test, I thought was quite fantastic how he went about it. Even Will Young, Will Young had a charged down the ground and hit a few lovely shots himself over the top. He picked his moments nicely. India did not pick their moments at any point. And it, I mean, I was going to say it wasn't pretty to see, but it kind of was because I was just sitting there trying to see AJ Patel take a bunch of wickets. Well, Virat Kohli, great man Virat Kohli, right? I think people realize he hasn't been quite nearly the same player in the last 3 or 4 years of Test cricket, but still. Which country do you reckon Virat Kohli has the worst Test average against of the ones he's played against? So obviously no Pakistan. So.
Just on Pakistan, because I was watching the Australia vs Pakistan ODI series, and I think it was might have been Wasim Akram, and he was talking about Pakistan. He's like, "Yeah, we're just a small country," and then I checked their population; they got 250 million people.
Yeah,
so
it's not a small country.
I'm going to say that the country that Virat Kohli has his worst Test batting average is against the smallest Test playing nation in the world, a country with 5 million that continuously performs. Or it's just the best sporting nation in the world. Let me just say it like that.
Correct. Virat Kohli's best Test average is 67 against Sri Lanka. He averages 54 against South Africa. He's in the 47 to 48 range against Bangladesh, West Indies, and Australia. Big drop of 5 runs between Australia to get to England in second worst. 5 runs per average. Averages 42.36 against England. Almost as big a drop to drop another 4 runs to get to New Zealand, where he averages 38.36 from 27 innings against the Black Caps. That's nearly 10 runs worse than what he averages against Australia.
There were many funny moments for Kiwi cricket fans, maybe the Virat Kohli run-outs, and all sorts of other mishaps. None quite like Akash coming out to bat, didn't like his bat, so he got his bat changed, and then he got run out without facing a ball. I thought that was a bit of a giggle. Shout out to him. And then we also had Mohammad Siraj. That followed Mohammad Siraj coming out as a night watchman and reviewing a plum LBW. To be honest, these are some details. Obviously, the Akash thing is just a bit weird. You're changing your bat just to get run out. That's pure. It's pure number 11 things, but he wasn't the number 11. Mohammad Siraj, night watcher, was the number 11. So just putting your number 11 batter as the night watcher, that's weird. And then using your number 11 batter as a night watcher using a review, that's also weird. And to me, that's part of the package that I was talking about last week, where the Black Caps Tom Latham said after the test, like, nothing really changed from Sri Lanka. They played some good cricket, they lost, blah, blah, blah. I was like, bruh, you were the change. You weren't captain.
It's literally changed the captain between those two series. It's a pretty big change.
And I don't want to poo-poo Tim Southee, because I like whatever reason it wasn't working with Tim Southee, and that's all right. Like, just repeating myself at the moment, but like he contributed to this Test series victory, and I liked Tim Southee as a cricketer. The team is like just looks different under Tom Latham. Everything about them looks different. Maybe it's not necessarily Tom Latham, the captain. Maybe it's the soul searching and the reviews they had to do after the Sri Lankan performance. But this is a team that has taken on the persona of Tom Latham, like crafty, gritty, tactical, like big efforts in the field. So I like that, but at the same time, India have undergone a change as well, with Gautam Gambhir coming in as coach. He took over from Rahul Dravid, and like the details in India's performance, they don't reflect well on the coach at all. Like, they are team culture, like fundamentals, intangibles. Those are the things that India sucked at. And they were the areas that New Zealand excelled in. And I believe the changes in the New Zealand captaincy and the changes in the Indian coach, I think that like tells the story of where these two teams are at. Like, well, one other thing I'm thinking about is like the Blackcaps' fitness, because it's evident in the batters. Will Young faced 138 deliveries in the first innings. Daryl Mitchell faced 129. I think they were buggered after 20 deliveries each. And like, whether it was Devon Conway, Rachin Ravindra, Ish Sodhi, who didn't bowl a whole lot in the test, took a key wicket of Rishabh Pant in the first innings, but didn't bowl a whole lot. Those dudes had to keep showing up in the field. They had to keep chasing the ball to the boundary. And I've found some clarity, because like whether it's the drop goals in rugby league, like setting up for the drop goal, I saw it a little bit with England versus the All Blacks, like setting up for the drop goal, winning moments. It was the NPC final a few weeks ago. Drop goals just vanished in the final minutes. Fielding mishaps, drop catches. Those things happen when you're tired. Like, it's hard to set up for a drop goal in rugby league with precision and clinical execution when you're buggered. That's why the best halfbacks make it look so easy, because they have the clarity of mind and the fitness to get through the process and execute the drop goal with ease. Like, yeah, you might drop a catch in the 5th hour of play when it's 40 degrees. Like, that's going to happen. But when you're watching cricket, like, catches win matches, so they're going to overanalyze the catch and say what a key moment it is. It's like, yeah, I don't know, he's probably buggered. No, he's tired. It's hard to stay focused and take those moments. But overall, I thought the Blackcaps' fitness was a key factor in this victory, because they had to play the long game in the second innings as well. Like, India were only chasing 147 runs. Rishabh Pant was going all right, but the Blackcaps finished that innings stronger. They did take catches in that final innings. We've got catches for Phillips, Mitchell, Blundell took a couple, Ravindra, Will Young took a nice little diver at short leg. Will Young, who spent the most time at the batting crease, was under the lid most of the time in the field. He saved his best catch for the second to last catch of the series. And this is what I love about the Blackcaps, is they we've talked about it a lot, like the fielding, the tactics, planning, preparation, all that stuff, but it's also the fitness. And it's something that you see a lot now with Chris Donaldson just embedded as the trainer. His stuff is cricket focused. His strength and fitness is designed for cricket. And he was a former sprinter. Olympian, maybe? Commonwealth Games sprinter for New Zealand?
Definitely Com Games, yeah.
So he comes from an athletics background, but he's put his expertise into cricket, and he's been in cricket for a long time. So any new player who comes into the Blackcaps gets fitter, they get stronger. And that's probably my favorite thing about this Test series victory was the adversity they faced with the conditions and how their fitness helped ride that wave of really difficult conditions, but also riding the wave of when India did score runs, when India did take wickets, the Blackcaps were still capable of playing a longer game than India.
And that fielding goes beyond the catches too. Like the catches are catches win matches, so that's like the thing that stands out. But like they successfully defended a fourth innings chase of like it was 147, 148, something like that, like slightly under 150. And when that's the case, it's not just about like you have to take your catches because there's not enough time for there to be more chances, although there kind of was on this pitch, like kind of chances every over almost. But you also like you can't even afford misfields. Like every run is so crucial. They were talking a lot on the radio commentary about like there's a phrase they kept using called the currency of runs. It's like in some games runs are worth more in different situations depending on how many runs are in the test match overall and whatever. And this was a low scoring test match, so the currency of runs, like every run was crucial. There were no major sloppy moments that I can think of. There weren't dumb overthrows or like guys unaware in the field or any of those kind of things. Like they were just locked in and they went out there and they say bowled themselves to victory. But that sort of makes it sound like it only gives the credit to the bowlers. It was a team effort, just kind of I don't know, like looming over India and allowing them to make the mistakes and them to succumb to the pressure. And it was it was beautiful to see because these are things that we've been lamenting the lack of in Blackcaps for a little while. And it's not just that they were back here, it's like they were back here and weaponized those ideas. So just brilliant stuff. And then even just like the idea of they'd already won the series and they still put in that performance to win that third test when they didn't have to. Like they'd have got away with still everyone would be talking about what a great success it was if they'd come away with a 2-1 series victory. I was kind of preparing myself for that mentally as the third game got underway anyway. So that stuff is just, fantastic. Just a real team performance, and I think you can see that across the whole series, right? Because like first test match, Rachin Ravindra scores runs, Matt Henry takes a bunch of wickets. Second test match, you got a couple different guys scoring. No one got a century after that, after Ravindra, but you got a couple different guys scoring 50s there. And Conway might have. What was that the game when Latham as well? One of them at some point. Don't think it was Conway. I think Conway was the first one. These
Tom
all
Latham scored runs.
India three times in a row. Yeah,
Tom Latham scored runs. Mitchell Santner took wickets, but like. But
the third test is H.S. Patel and Will Young and a bit of Daryl Mitchell. Like these are different names each time, right? Like it's. The contributions across the board from everyone stepping up at various times and everyone contributing to what they did.
Just going back to the third test thing, that's a World Test Championship wrinkle.
Yeah, it is.
The test mattered in the context of the World Test Championship, but I think the Blackcaps, they got a whiff of blood in the water. I think they smelt weakness. And we were scared of India, as most people are when you're playing against India in India. But I noticed the difference in the two teams in the first test, like the Latham captaincy, the Gambia coaching stuff like that. That I viewed that as important because it was evident in the body language. It was evident in everything the players and as individuals and a collective in the team, everything they were doing made me think that like India's a bit different under Gambia. The Blackcaps are a bit different under Latham. And that's from me watching in Aotearoa through Matali. The Blackcaps were there. They were up close and personal with the opposition. And if you have a bit of success, that gives you confidence, but it also helps you establish like, okay, how's the opposition feeling? What are they doing? And I think the Blackcaps got a whiff of weakness. I think the Blackcaps could smell blood in the water, and that's why they kept hammering. That's why they kept persisting with the long game, with the endurance, with the grind, and executing their skills, because I think they could feel that they were on top. Whether it was like from the first test or the first day, where they rolled India for 46. Either way, they felt like they were on top. There's, to your point about the team-wide contributions, like it was Seam in the first test, Santner in the second test, Patel in the third test. And as you said, Bloke scored runs throughout the series. We had 6 different players score a 50. Ravindra, century 50, Will Young 250s, Devon Conway 250s. They were the batters who scored 250 plus scores in the series. Devon Conway scored 91 in the first test, 76 in the second test. So he was the dude who scored runs in the second test with Latham. Mitchell scored 150, Latham scored 150, Southey scored 150. Those are important, but the currency of runs.
Phillips have like a 48 not out at one point as well.
Yeah. But the currency of runs idea is most evident in the small contributions. Daryl Mitchell scored 150 in the first innings of the third test, but he scored 10 runs. He scored over 10 runs, over 15 runs in every innings that he batted. 18, 82, 21. Will Young cashed in the third test with 250s, but he had 10 plus runs in every innings. 33, 48, 18, 23, 71, 51. Glenn Phillips scored over 10 runs in 4 or 5 innings, and he hit 9 runs in the other innings. So in a series, in a series where they only scored 300 plus runs once, New Zealand did. Both teams only scored 300 plus runs once each in the whole series. They scored 400 in the first test. The benchmark of like run scoring production drops. So when it's really hard to bat, who's scoring 10 plus runs? If 10 blokes score 10 plus runs or 10 runs, you get 100. And that gives you the wiggle room for other dudes to score 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. That's how you get to 200 runs. And 200 runs in these conditions, as we've seen, is highly effective, highly competitive and winnable totals. So there were a bunch of dudes who did that. Mitchell and Young were the dudes who scored 10 plus runs in every innings. But we also had Latham scored 10 plus runs in 4 of his 6 innings. Ravindra scored 30 plus runs in 3 of his 6 innings. Conway scored 10 plus runs in 5 of 6 innings. So those dudes, if I'm using the 10 run benchmark, those dudes succeeded more than they failed. In the context of team-wide contributions. And that's how the Blackcaps love to play cricket. It's not Kane Williamson scores all the runs, because he wasn't playing. Ravindra started on fire, didn't finish on fire. So blokes had to score 10 runs, 15 runs, 20 runs just to stack up their totals. It's similar with the wickets. Like, Mitchell Santner played one test. He scored 37 runs and took 13 wickets. That's efficient. That's contributing to a win. Glenn Phillips took a wicket every innings he bowled. All five, sorry. 1 wicket, 2 wicket, 1 wicket, 1 wicket, 3 wickets. Matt Henry. He took 8 wickets in that first test in favourable conditions, and he took a wicket in each innings in Mumbai. It was only 1 wicket, but given the roles seam bowling played in Mumbai, Matt Henry dismissed Rohit Sharma and Rohit Sharma. Matt Henry ensured that Rohit Sharma didn't impact this game. Ajaz Patel took 2 or more wickets in 4 of his 5 innings. Southey took 1 wicket in 3 of his 4 innings. Again, these aren't like massive hauls. The dudes did take massive hauls. Will O'Rourke, Matt Henry in the first test, Santner in the second test, Patel in the third test. But there was just like, dudes just found a way to take 1 wicket. Dudes found a way to score 10 runs. And when you're dealing in tough conditions, when you're dealing in small margins of the highest level of test cricket, or the highest level of cricket, those small contributions add up. It's the same, chasing the ball to the boundary to save 2 runs. Working hard to turn a double to a single. Those are the things. Scoring 10 runs, taking 1 wicket. Let's see what the Indian seamers did in Mumbai. Siraj didn't take a wicket. Akashdeep took 1 wicket in each innings, so shout out to him. But Matt Henry bowled 3 overs in the second innings and 8 overs in the first innings. Will O'Rourke bowled 2 overs. That's it. That's the seam bowling contributions for the Blackcaps in the third test. But Matt Henry took a wicket in each test, in each innings. Each showed he only bowled 7 overs, but he took the wicket apart. I can't go past Glenn Phillips though. Like taking a wicket in every innings and almost hitting that 10-run benchmark in all 5 innings he batted. That's impressive. Not quite as impressive as Mitchell and Will Young hitting 10+ runs in every innings, but, well, it was, because he took a wicket in every innings. Like, this is just something I've conjured up. That 10-run benchmark and consistency of a wicket, or consistency of wickets, plural. In a series like this, where it's really hard for the seamers, and it's the run scoring is lower, those are things that help you win. And like, I'm not going to go forward keeping track of who scored 10+ runs and took a wicket, because I think it's kind of unique to a series like this, but it is a detail. When you're talking about team-wide contributions, you can go, yeah, test by test, different dudes contributed, because it was like the seamers, it was Ravindra, then it was Santner and Latham and Conway, then it was Young and Mitchell and Patel. Ajaz, Rachin. But Will Young, Will Young and Daryl Mitchell, they were 18 runs plus in every innings. So they cashed in the third test, but they scored more than 18 runs or more in every innings of the whole series. That's like, there's team-wide contributions in a series, but then there's like a detail within the team-wide contributions in a series where it's like, okay, what were your small contributions that, when packaged together with everyone else's small contributions, stack up to a sweeping India in India?
Yeah, like when everyone's worst innings and, with bat and ball are still positively adding to the sum of what the team is doing overall, you're in a pretty good place. Because yeah, like you say, there's those are the like foundational elements that allow someone like Will Young or Daryl Mitchell in the most recent Test match to then, so they go a little bit bigger, and then you add those up together, and then you're like this. It's kind of the same concept as another what was formerly forgotten art of Black Caps winning Test cricket is just being able to tally up like 50 runs per innings from batters 8, 9, 10, 11. And that might be from one guy slugging 50 himself, or it might be just from a bunch of different 10 to 15 kind of contributions. This series was, currency of runs. This series wasn't allowing for that type of stuff, but I would be absolutely stunned if we added together the sort of like the tail ender contributions from both teams, and the Black Caps weren't significantly ahead of India in terms of what their lower order. With India, it felt like if you get that kind of, it was usually Rishabh Pant who was in this partnership. There's always that one where it's like maybe it's Pant and Jadeja or Pant and Sarfaraz or something like that. There's that one partnership where it's like, well, if we break this, it might just take the last 4 or 5 wickets for 20 runs. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of resistance coming in after. And generally speaking, there wasn't. Whereas the Black Caps did, like, even in the very last partnership, like AJ Patel smacking a six, like the huge runs, really important runs. He got out trying to hit another one, but like these little, even a matter, it might not even be runs. It might be if you're Will O'Rourke at the other end, just being able to stay not out. And he's
Four not
actually,
outs.
he doesn't look like he doesn't look like he can score a lot of runs. He might be almost number 11 for quite a while, but he also didn't get dismissed much. He was able to like
Oh,
sneak a
like
little single into the offside and get these 1 and 2s not outs. Like those are fine. If you don't get out, that's fine.
he's a 23-year-old seamer. Like what? Like who cares about his batting?
Well, I care about his batting when he's able to be part of like a 20-run partnership at the end,
Yeah,
by
like
just hanging in there and not getting out. He doesn't have to get in there and slug Trent Bolte type innings.
but
They're
like
different players, right?
you can't say he's the most number 11 batter we've had in a long time. Like he's
Well,
a
we're coming off of the best number 11 in history, so I guess
I don't
there's a
like
there's a
if we're talking about this, I don't think Trent Bolt was the best number 11 when he was 23 years old.
yeah. Well, that's probably fair.
Like I don't know, Will O'Rourke, Test batting, he's got 9 not outs in 12 innings. That's I wish I did that. So I'm not here to talk any shit about Will O'Rourke's batting. Like he's got 9 not outs in 12 innings. That's fine for someone who's 23 years old and is also averaging 19.4 with the ball. Like we can account for that. Let's talk about the golden generation. Because I remember when, and again, if we're going, okay, this is the greatest, Test moment for the Black Caps in New Zealand cricket. Well, we did win the first World Test Championship, like that did happen, and that's a major ICC tournament. Like this is a fantastic achievement. It's a Test series in India. Like we have won the World Test Championship. Like that's, but I'm not going to argue. Like whatever you want to think. But my point is that we did win the World Test Championship. We have done some crazy stuff in cricket while also grinding through some low points since the 2020 pandemic. But when the Black Caps won the World Test Championship, that was all about the golden generation. It was like, oh, Kane Williamson, Ross Taylor, Southey, Wagner, Bolt, like all these dudes, Watling. The golden generation of Black Caps cricketers finally had their moment. and it was meant to be the end. Like, that was meant to be the end of the golden generation. Only 2 players from that World Test Championship final played in Mumbai.
Tom Latham would be one, and Patel didn't play that series. Devon Conway would have played as well. Yeah, the 2 openers.
They were the only players from the World Test Championship final that played in Mumbai. Tim Southey played in the World Test Championship and played 2 tests in the series. You compare that to India. India had Rohit Sharma, Shubman Gill, Virat Kohli, Rishabh Pant, Ravi Jadeja, Ravi Ashwin. They played in Mumbai, and then you've got Bumrah, who didn't play in Mumbai, played in the final like Southey. So that was like the World Test Championship was meant to be the end of the golden generation. And a new Blackcaps team went to India and swept India. None of the bowlers played in the World Test Championship final. None of the bowlers in the Mumbai Test played in the World Test Championship final. The engine room of the batting: Williamson, Taylor, Nichols, Watling, de Gronholm, Jamieson. None of those dudes were there in Mumbai. None of those dudes played any cricket of this tour. And I've been of the belief that the emerging cricketers in New Zealand are really good. And throughout this low patch of Test cricket, Will O'Rourke, Rachin Ravindra, Glenn Phillips, they have been the best players for the Blackcaps. And now you've got Mitchell. Blundell didn't have his best series, but he got the job done, so shout out to him. And add in everyone else: Will Young, Matt Henry, Ajaz Patel, Mitchell Santner. Like, this is a new Blackcaps team that has achieved some level, depending on your historical facts and what you view as most important. They have achieved a great thing, one of the greatest things, if not the greatest thing, if you can bring me the facts. But it was a completely different team that won the World Test Championship final just 3 years ago.
Yeah, first time that the Blackcaps, first time India have ever been swept in India. First time, I think only the 3rd time in history India have not won a single Test match in a series at home. Blackcaps have had a lot of sweeps in their time, but they've all been 2-game sweeps, and only 3 have been away from home. The other 2 were in Zimbabwe. This one is a 3-test sweep in India. So a lot of unprecedented stuff going down. I did just quickly check Trent Boult's record as well, and he was 23 years old in his 4th Test innings, where he hit 33 not out against South Africa with 3 sixes. So he might have been that good from the get-go.
Yeah, fair play.
He was 24, I think, when he scored an unbeaten 50 at number 11 in Bangladesh as well. So, he...
Righto,
fair play to Trent Boult. He was the best for the reason. He's some of those innings were at number 10 though.
How many not outs did he have?
Let's see.
Give me the ratio.
Ignoring the scores, the start of his Test career goes not out, out, not out, not out.
No, just
not
career.
Out, not out.
Career not outs to innings batted.
Okay, 46 not outs out of 94. So just under 50%.
Right, I'll keep that in mind, because Will O'Rourke's above 50%. Like, he's not.
That sort of makes sense if you're like, if you're batting at number 11 mostly, you're only involved in one partnership, right? So either you get out or the other guy gets out. It should be about 50%, right? So if you're above 50% at the number 11, that's good. That's top stuff.
We don't have time for this, but very quickly, do you have like Trent Boult's early bowling stuff? And as you looked up that, the Blackcaps, they now have a series against Sri Lanka, T20s and ODIs. Now, I wrote about the Ford Trophy this morning. I'll drop some facts in a jiffy, but the emerging Blackcaps who have been playing for a trophy who are going to tour Sri Lanka in that series, Josh Clarkson, he's averaging 9.2 with the bat, 43 with the ball. Dean Foxcroft, he's averaging 11.8 with the bat, 29.2 with the ball. Mitch Hay, tough start to the summer. He's averaging 5.5. Nathan Smith is averaging 22 with the bat, strike rate of 85, and he's averaging 20.3 with the ball. We've also got the one and only Zach Folks. He's averaging 43.5 with the bat, 13.8 with the ball. And there's one other bloke I need to check in with, Tim Robinson. One of Wellington's best batters to start the season. He's got 100 runs at an average of 50. How did Trent Boult start his bowling career?
Well, how many test matches has O'Rourke played? Like 6 or 7?
7, I believe. 7.
Right.
Yep.
So after 7 test matches, Trent Boult had taken 19 wickets, best of 3 for 29 at an average of 35.89. He did take a 4-for against Sri Lanka in his 8th test match, so that picked the average up. But even, where are we? 14 test matches into his career, he still had an average over 30. He got it under, then it went back over 30 after 18 test matches. Then it started to steadily come down, 27s, 28s, 26. Steadying on at about, where are we? 27 now, so 27 and a half. So yeah, he wasn't doing what Will O'Rourke did with the ball at the start of his career. That's certainly true.
Can you
so hold on, his first 5 for Will O'Rourke, who already has about 3 or 4 5-fers. Trent Boult's first 5-fer came in his 13th match.
Okay.
6 for 68 against England.
Trent Boult's bowling average after 7 tests, what was that?
That was 35.89, 19 wickets.
Will O'Rourke, 7 tests, 26 wickets, averaging 19.42. Trent Boult, after 19 tests, what was his record?
Trent Boult, after 19 test matches, 67 wickets, 26.92.
Kyle Jamieson,
the 19th test match, he took 10 for 80 against the West Indies match figures. So
that's cool.
That was a good one.
19 tests for Kyle Jamieson, 80 wickets at an average of 19.7. So if we're talking about a golden generation, Kyle Jamieson and Will O'Rourke have had better starts to their test career than Trent Boult by fairly significant margins.
Undeniably so.
Tim Southey, can you just pull up Tim Southey while I blabble on about Ford Trophy? So Ford Trophy,
I can do that.
Auckland are top of the table, 4-1. Canterbury are 3-1 in second. Wellington 2-2. Otago 2-3. CD ND 1-3. The best performers in the Ford Trophy. One of my favourite youngsters, we've got Zach Folks, Luke Georgeson's doing some great stuff. Curtis Heafy, youngster for CD. He's doing some good stuff as well. He is second for runs as a 21-year-old, averaging 69 century, half century so far after 5 games. Best batter, Chad Bowes, built on that double banger. Leading run scorers, we got Bowes, Heafy, Brad Schmullian for CD, Jack Boyle for CD, Dale Phillips averaging 44.8, Henry Cooper, Michael Sklanders, Will O'Donnell, Luke Georgeson. Luke Georgeson, 175 runs, average of 35, strike rate of 94, and Georgeson also has 5 wickets at an average of 19. Shout out to the Big Donny sluggers. Chad Bowes, strike rate of 150. Brett Hampton, strike rate of 116. Lou Johnson, another youngster, he's got a strike rate of 102 with a 50. Max Chu, he's got a strike rate of 103. And Tom Bruce, strike rate of 130. Best bowlers, we have Tickner, Matt Bacon, Jimmy Neesham, Zach Folks, Scott Kugelheim, Angus McKenzie, Lockie Ferguson, Adam Milne, Peter Younghusband, Dean Foxcroft, Nick Greenwood, Simon Keane, Ray Toole, Brett Hampton, Aditya Ashok, Jaden Lennox. All of those bowlers have at least 6 wickets. The lowest average of those dudes, we've got Nick Greenwood. He's got a smaller sample size, 6 wickets at an average of 7. He's the opening batter for Wellington, who bowls a bit of off spin. Jimmy Neesham, averaging 10.3 with the ball, lower than Zach Folks' 13.8. Angus McKenzie averaging 13.1. Those are the best Ford Trophy performers. Tim Southey, 7 tests. What was Tim Southey up to?
Well, Tim Southey, who famously did take a fiver on debut against England, then didn't take a test match in the next match, then went and played a couple games against Australia. After 7 tests, he had taken 19 wickets at 42.31. So
Okay.
not the prettiest. He took a little while to get going.
That's all right. I just need your facts. Tim Southey after 19 tests.
Well, in Tim Southey's 19th test match, he took 7 for 64 against India. That took his average under 40 down to 39.84 with 53 wickets from 19 tests.
The golden generation. Tim Southey, Trent Boult. The start of their careers were significantly worse than Kyle Jamieson and Will O'Rourke. To me, now Kyle Jamieson's always injured, so it's a bit of a wonky one, and he did play at the World Test Championship. He was in that final. He was the player of the match, I believe. But my point here is that this sums up New Zealand cricket, because Kyle Jamieson and Will O'Rourke, they're both 2 meters tall. They both hoop the ball around. They both nip the ball around, and they have had significantly better starts to their test bowling career than the 2 best modern bowlers for New Zealand, Trent Boult and Tim Southey. That's pretty damn impressive.